Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for September 15th of 2023, and currently we have a slight risk for western Texas into eastern New Mexico, with a marginal threat that does extend into parts of eastern Texas. As for our threats for today, we do have a 2% tornado threat for the slight risk region. We also have a 5% wind threat, but we also have a 15% hail threat for the slight risk region, which is going to be the primary threat for today's severe thunderstorms. We are expected to see some orographic elongated hodographs to support a little bit more of a hail potential from the last couple of days. And before I continue with today's video, I do want to thank everyone that has been tuning into my videos and the people that are tuning into this one. We have finally broken 100 subscribers, and I thank everyone for their support with Project Gladiator, and I will get back to the weather for today. Again, thank you so much for supporting me, and hopefully I will continue to grow from here. And again, thank you guys so much. Taking a look at the tropics, primarily focusing on Hurricane Lee, you can see that trough, I did mention this in yesterday's forecast. However, that trough has passed a little bit more to the north than previously anticipated. It was expected to impact more head-on with some of the previous models. However, it is going to pass a little bit more to the north and lead to minor effects to Hurricane Lee. It is going to weaken Hurricane Lee a little bit, but overall, the major impacts from this trough on Hurricane Lee is going to pass too far to the north to really lead to major weakening of Hurricane Lee. However, we still are expected to see weakening from Hurricane Lee. We are expected to see Hurricane Lee impact is either a low-end Cat 1 or a tropical storm. However, Hurricane Lee has had a little bit more of an eastward trend. The cone of warning was expected to impact head-on and then veer off to the east. However, it has shifted a little bit to the east, so we are seeing a little bit more of an eastward shift, and that could be related to that trough and cold front that has passed through. However, we do have warnings out, and we do have a hurricane watch for Nova Scotia and maybe parts of very far eastern Maine. However, we do have a overall, we do have our tropical storm watches for the New England region, I think down to Rhode Island. So anywhere along the coast, we are expected to see, I think, storm surge of up to 3 feet. But overall, we are expected to see more tropical storm-like impacts, as Hurricane Lee is going to weaken significantly to either a low-end Cat 1 or a tropical storm by the time of impact, and we are expected to see some of those outer bands from Hurricane Lee across the New England region. We are expected to see more indirect impacts from Hurricane Lee than direct. However, we could definitely still see impacts from Hurricane Lee, and that does include storm surge of up to 3 feet anywhere across the New England coast, as well as maybe some high winds, and overall the main threat of flash flooding across the New England region. This is expected to impact tomorrow, and I will definitely have a forecast on this tomorrow, but do keep that in mind for tomorrow and prepare. You do have, I think, a day left. It is expected to impact the morning of tomorrow, so do prepare for Hurricane or Tropical Storm Lee for when it does impact. We are expected to see overall minor impacts from Hurricane Lee. They aren't expected to be major. However, do definitely stay hurricane alert and weather alert if you live in any of the areas that could see impacts from Hurricane Lee. And I will be releasing a forecast for Hurricane Lee by tomorrow, so do keep that in mind if you live in any of the affected areas. And again, watch for any updates from Hurricane Lee from any of the notable channels, such as the National Weather Service or AccuWeather, any of those professional stations with professional meteorologists. Do make sure you are watching for updates and staying prepared for Tropical Storm or Hurricane Lee if you live in any of these affected areas. Taking a look at our radar Omega model, starting off with our 500 millibars, focusing on the slight risk region. You can see that we still have that subtropical jet that is going to continue to sit across the southern United States. It is again gonna continue to sit across this region and trigger severe thunderstorms. This was kind of expected. If you watch the weekly overlook, we're definitely expecting this subtropical jet to just sit across the southern United States. However, the reason why we do have a slight risk opposed to just a bunch of marginal threats, we have had, I think, another slight risk this week, but this could be, I think this is the second slight risk across this region for this week, and you can see that overall this mid-level flow is very, very weak. The subtropical jet is very weak with mid-level flow that is just barely getting into the 30s. It's anywhere from the 25 into 35 miles per hour. So if you focus on these purples, these very slight purples across the western Texas, you can see that we haven't really had these for the marginal threats. They have just really stayed more in these white colors into gray colors. We haven't really had any of these purples here in the mid-levels, so that could be leading to more of an increased potential for severe thunderstorms across this region, as some of our mid-level flow might be a little bit stronger in some regions to support that slight risk region opposed from just a marginal threat region. However, as for our threats, I know you can't really see it without wind vectors or our isobars. Unlike pivotal weather, radar omega models does not give us any wind vectors, so it is very hard to see the veering of the winds unless you have a very prominent veering of the winds that you can see easily. However, we are expected to see some very weak veering of the winds across this region, and some of the directional shear from leftover storms across this region. Some of the directional shear that has built up from storms passing through this region on multiple occasions is going to allow for some directional shear across this region, with the as well as the veering of the winds and the rise of convection across this region. We are expected to see some directional shear to support the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region, but overall our main threat should be small to medium hail, as the mountains to the west of this slight risk region are going to block a lot of the lower level winds. However, the mid levels and the upper levels are still going to get across and lead to lee troughing on the eastern side of those mountains, and that's going to be helping trigger our severe thunderstorms. I think we also do have a little bit of a stationary front across this region, and with the dry line to the west, as we do have drier air, more desertous air to the west, but then we also do have more moist air that has built up from the rounds of convection and rain and from the Gulf of Mexico. So with that stationary front and the dry line, we are expected to see a little bit of a triple point where those lines do intersect. So we could see not only the lee troughing and that stationary front, that dry line, and that triple point leading to help with severe thunderstorm development across this region. Taking a look at our dew points, focusing on the slight risk region, with the rounds of convection that we have had across Texas and eastern New Mexico, and some of the moisture being pulled in from the Gulf of Mexico, we are expected to see some of this instability build across Texas and also lead to building moisture across this region as well. You can see a lot of the dew points have been increasing into the mid-70s. We didn't have this earlier in the week. We had much weaker dew points. However, with the rounds of convection and due to rain adding more moisture to the atmosphere, we are expected to see building moisture and building instability from that moisture across Texas, which will help support severe thunderstorms across this region. Taking a look at our temperatures, focusing on the slight risk region, you can see that we are expected to have temperatures that are going to range anywhere from those upper 80s and possibly low 90s into the 70s across Texas, possibly getting into the mid to low 70s across the panhandle of Texas and the northern half of eastern New Mexico. You can see that we do have a little bit of a stationary front here. It is fairly weak, but then with that fairly weak dry line across some of the eastern portions of New Mexico, where those fronts do intercept, we are expected to see that triple point there to help aid with severe thunderstorm development across this region. So with that triple point, the leeward troughing and some of the stronger mid-level flow compared to the last couple of days is only slightly stronger. We could definitely see this slight risk region across this region opposed from just the marginal threats that we've been seeing a lot of this week. Some of the mid-level flow aloft being a little bit stronger compared to the last couple of days could help lead to this being more having more of a potential for severe severe thunderstorms across this region than some of the other marginal threats that we've had this week. Taking a look at our instability, we are expected to have a wide range of instability. However, it is going to stay mostly in the moderates range for the slight risk region. We are expected to see CAPE values across New Mexico and western Texas, more so in the northern half of this marginal threat. That are going to be ranging anywhere in these green colors, anywhere from the triple digits into the low and mid 1000s. But then the further south we go, we get increasing instability as some of the moisture is further down to the south and eastward. So we are expected to see a little bit of stronger instability in the southern half of Texas. With some of the stronger dew points, and we are expected to have CAPE values in the southern half of this slight risk region that are going to be getting up to the 2000s, the mid 2000s and upper 2000s, as well as some regions that could be getting into the low 3000s. So we are expected to have some fairly strong instability across this region, which will definitely support the possibility of some small to medium hail across this region as the primary threat, with more of those orographic elongated photographs, as well as some of the weak veering of the winds could also support the possibility. Some of the weak veering of the winds in the mid levels, as well as some of the building directional shear from left in the wake of severe thunderstorms from the last couple of days, could lead to the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region, as well as the threat of damaging winds across this region as well. Taking a look at our energy helicity index, focusing on the 2% tornado threat, you can see that we are expected to have some spotty energy helicity index regions that are going to be indicative of that 2% tornado threat. I think I said energy helicity index regions. I meant energy helicity index readings. We are expected to have some spotty energy helicity index readings in different regions that are fairly spotty, that could definitely be supportive and indicative of that 2% tornado threat region across this 2% tornado threat. And outside of this 2% tornado threat, you may be seeing that we also have some energy helicity index readings that would definitely be indicative of a 2% tornado threat. However, the only place that we really are going to see energy helicity index readings that would be supportive of this 2% tornado threat being used up by thunderstorms is going to be across the slight risk region. Because if you take a look at some of the energy helicity index readings outside of this 2% tornado threat, they aren't being used up by the thunderstorms, and they are just dissipating. So the only place that we're really able to see some of these energy helicity index readings being used by thunderstorms to support the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region is going to be in the 2% tornado threat. So don't get confused if you see any of these energy helicity index readings outside of this 2% tornado threat. However, inside of the 2% tornado threat, where they are being used by thunderstorms, we could definitely see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow in another forecast. And if you live in any of the areas I covered for today, please stay with the alert for the time being.